The reason you feel stuck isn't because you lack talent, and it's certainly not because you've reached your ceiling. It's actually much more uncomfortable than that. You're stuck because you've become an expert at being the person you no longer want to be. Your brain has spent the last decade perfecting the you that exists right now. It has carved deep, efficient, high-speed highways for your current habits, your current fears, and your current excuses. You aren't failing to change, you are succeeding at staying the same. And until you realize that your brain is a physical record of your past, you're going to keep fighting a losing battle against your own biology. Most of us in our 30s and 40s think our problem is a lack of discipline. We buy the planners, we download the apps, we tell ourselves that on Monday we'll finally get it together. We treat our lives like a software problem, as if we just need to install a new productivity program and everything will run smoothly. But it's not software, it's hardware. The real problem is that your brain is designed for efficiency, not necessarily for your happiness. You think you're choosing to procrastinate or choosing to stay in that soul-crushing middle management loop. But for your brain, those aren't choices anymore. They are well-worn paths in a dense forest. You've walked them so many times that the dirt is packed hard and the brush is cleared. To do anything else, to speak up in that meeting, to pivot your career, to change how you respond to stress, is like trying to hack through a thicket with a butter knife. The struggle you feel, that's not a sign that you're incapable. It's just the physical friction of trying to build a new road while the old one is still inviting you back. The experts, there's a word for this, neuroplasticity. For a long time, the world believed that after a certain age, the concrete had set.
That your brain was fixed and you were just stuck with the hand you were dealt. But we know now that's a lie. Your brain is plastic, it is dynamic, it is reorganizing itself every single second based on what you do and what you think. Think of those forest paths again. Every time you repeat a thought or a behavior, you are strengthening a synapse, you are widening that road. This happens in two ways. There's structural plasticity, where your brain actually grows new neurons and physical connections. And there's functional plasticity, where the brain is so resilient it can actually move functions from one area to another to keep you operating. Your hippocampus is constantly managing your memories. Your amygdala is scanning for threats. Your prefrontal cortex is trying to make sense of it all. They are working together to build a physical map of your reality. The old dog, new tricks cliché is dead. You can rewire the system. But the catch is, the system doesn't care if the wires you're laying down are good or bad. It just cares that they're used. So why don't smart, capable people like you, actually apply this? If we know the brain can change, why do we stay in the same ruts for years? Because change is a threat to your identity. When you start to lay down a new neural pathway, your amygdala, that emotional, fear-based center of your brain, starts screaming. It doesn't see personal growth, it sees deviation from the known. To your brain, the old, miserable version of you is safe because it's survivable. You've survived being this version of yourself for 40 years. The brain likes those odds. When you try to become someone else, you are literally asking your brain to prune away physical parts of its structure. You're asking it to let the old paths grow over with weeds. That feels like a kind of death. This is why you self-sabotage. It's not a character flaw.
It's your brain's attempt to keep you in the safe zone of your existing identity. You aren't fighting your boss or your schedule. You're fighting the physical architecture of who you've been. Let's be honest about where you are. You're at a point in your career where the sunk cost is starting to feel heavy. You've built a reputation. You've reached a certain level of comfort. You have a mortgage, maybe a family, certainly a set of expectations. The fear of starting over isn't just about the money. It's about the ego. It's the anxiety of being a novice again. We become so attached to our well-worn paths that we start to identify with them. We say, I'm just not a person who speaks up, or I've always been a high-stress person. We've also become experts at distracted interaction. We scroll through phones while we're talking to our partners. We multitask during deep work hours. We are starving our brains of the very sensory input and focus they need to actually rewire. You're asking for a new life, but you're reinforcing the old, distracted neural pathways every time you pick up that phone to avoid a difficult thought. You're strengthening the very brain fog and stuckness you claim you want to escape. So, how do we actually move the needle? It isn't about a massive life overhaul. It starts with something called metacognition. Metacognition is just a fancy way of saying thinking about your thinking. Instead of being the person walking down the path, you need to be the person standing above the forest, looking down at the map. You have to start observing your thoughts without judgment. When you feel that familiar surge of anxiety or that urge to procrastinate, don't label it as me, label it as Path A. The shift happens when you stop reacting to your thoughts and start regulating them. One clear move: identify your cognitive distortions, those lies your brain tells you to keep you on the old path. Write them down.
Analyze them objectively. When you see them on paper, they lose their power. They stop being the truth and start being that old road I'm letting grow over. Combine this with mindfulness, actually being present in the room, in the conversation, in the work. When you give something your full, undistracted attention, you are sending a high-voltage signal to your brain that says, "This matters. Build a path here." I want to leave you with one thought to carry into the rest of your day. If your brain is physically recording every thought you repeat and every action you take, what kind of person are you currently practicing to be? Think about that. I'll see you next time.